Hello, hello, hello. How are we doing? Welcome to the first ever edition of the Hammer the Over weekly podcast. This is something we're going to be doing every single week. Going to try to aim to do it on a Sunday or Monday, so just stay tuned. We'll keep you updated on our Twitter. If you're listening on YouTube, there will be a video element for this, but this should be streaming also on Spotify and Apple Music, so stay tuned for that content too. But with that being said, if this is your first time tuning in to Hammer the Over, we are a Twitter sports betting page. That's when we originated a couple years back. Haven't really been committed to the grind, but we are back here to give you guys as many free picks as possible. My name is Austin. I consider myself to be a basketball expert. That's where I put most of my betting advice on. I do have some other of my friends who will be doing other sports such as NFL, MLB, and such, and I'll be tweeting out their picks every week. But here on YouTube, if you're listening here, I will be doing daily pick videos and such as the weeks go on, and you're listening on Spotify and Apple Music. Be sure to tune in every week here on our Twitter pages as well, as where we'll be tweeting our picks every day. But here on the weekly recap, we'll kind of just go through some of the games and kind of go through some of our picks, and we will also tweet out some picks that are going to occur in the next day that we believe. So if you're listening now, I'll go ahead and give you guys a free pick right off the back. We're going Chicago Sky money line. If you have not already listened to our free pick video that's going to be out by this time this podcast is on the YouTube channel, I'm going to go ahead and go Sky money line. This is going to be on July 26th. They're playing against the Aces in what should be a really, really good game, but I'm leaning the Sky just because they're the more well-rounded team. With that being said, let's get back into the podcast. This is going to be more around 5, 10, 15 minutes max every single week. We're going to keep it short and sweet. Just want to give you guys a little recap, give you guys some updates, and we're going to have some special guests here every single week to talk about sports. This is mainly a sports betting podcast. We'll also be giving you updates around the entire United States and world in the sports betting world. So with that being said, since it's just me today, I've been doing WNBA bets this summer. I also did some NBA Summer League, the last day of the NBA Summer League. We'll start there for my recap. Ended 3-0, which was a great feeling. I kind of was breaking even for a while and ended up a little bit of the positive side for NBA Summer League. And that last game, the championship game, was between the Blazers and the Knicks, and the Blazers ended up covering the spread big time. They were +3. I took them in that matchup. And it was just fun watching NBA Summer League. Big time fan of the Kings with Keegan Murray. He was a dog, the Summer League MVP. I did a whole article on the best players from the Big Ten, and he really showed out some other great players. Paolo Banchero only playing in a couple of games until the Magic pulled him. I was really impressed also with the Purdue alum Jaden Ivey, who was just a dog until he rolled his ankle, unfortunately. But the Blazers, man, they just all around were a really good team. The Knicks had Miles McBride and Quentin Grimes, and still the Blazers were able to beat them. But that was my favorite pick of this summer, was the Blazers +3. We also had the Raptors money line on that last day. The Raptors had a really good team with Delano Banton leading the team. He was a little bit of an issue on the turnover side of the ball. They're trying to run him at the true point guard. But, man, Nick Nurse and the Raptors, they really love these tall, lanky guards. They've been using them all the time, especially Scotty Barnes, their big-time draft pick, and I was really high on him last year, and he was a dog in the NBA last year. He didn't even start at Florida State. He was the sixth man, and considering he got drafted by the Raptors pretty high and contributed right away, it's kind of the format the Raptors have been going with, these tall, lanky players. And then my final pick was Wizards +3.5. Wizards team overall was pretty solid. They had Johnny Davis, the guard out of Wisconsin. He didn't perform as people expected. Like, looking at other Big Ten players that were drafted, he wasn't even in my top 5 of those performances. Bryce McGowan's played a lot better than Davis, in my opinion. Sadly, E.J. Liddell got injured. But we also saw a really good performance from Malachi Branham, the guard from Ohio State. He had some solid numbers too. But that's most of what really happened in the NBA Summer League that ended just over a week ago. It was like last Sunday. This is being filmed on July 25th at night. But let's go ahead to the WNBA and go through those picks. I don't know how many of you guys follow the WNBA, but I will say, despite all the hate that it gets, it's actually entertaining if you get into it. Like, if you actually give it a chance and follow it, like, there's some really, really talented players in this league. Myself, I'm closest to the New York Liberty or Mystics. So I'm more of a Liberty fan. They are the second worst team in the league, but Sabrina Ionescu, if you guys don't know who that is, she is their best player in my opinion. She's been playing really good. Recently she hasn't been the best, but she's a really clutch player. And multiple times this season she has been insane for them in the fourth quarter. But let's go ahead and recap this week in the WNBA. I kind of started off cold and then I got hot. So I went like even, then I went 1-2, then I went 0-3 in a terrible day. But after the 0-3 day, it's been a big turnaround. We went to the Daily Picks show, and the picks from that show, it was the New York Liberty first quarter money line against the Sky. Now the Sky were traveling. This is crazy for the Sky. This is the thing about the WNBA is like they're not treated like NBA players. Obviously, they're not making the same amount of money or getting the same viewership, but the Sky literally played a game at like 7:30 at night, ended at like 9:30, 10, and they had to get on their plane at 4:30 the next morning, and the flight got delayed. So I saw New York Liberty. I follow a bunch of different WNBA insiders, so I'm always getting the latest information around the league just to keep you guys updated for these picks. And they said the flight got delayed, so they didn't land to New York till like super late, like maybe like 11 noonish, and the game was at 7 that night. So that means they got there in the morning. So their players are super tired. Liberty was already doing a morning shoot around as the Sky landed. So I was like, I know the Sky's the best team in the league, but the Liberty are like, they can play hard and they can fight, and they're fighting for a playoff spot. So that's why I took them first quarter money line, because I was like, no matter what, the Sky are going to come out very sluggish, having landed that day. They might win the game, but I thought the Liberty were going to win that first quarter, which they did. I also took the Liberty plus 4.5, just because like literally the entire public was over Chicago Sky, and I was like, yeah, let's fade the public, baby. Let's go for our own pick. So took Liberty plus 4.5. That one hit, and then my other pick was a Sparks plus 9. Unfortunately, they did not cover, and for some reason, right before the game started, like 10 minutes, I don't know where I was. I think I was doing something before the game pick, so I didn't see it. But there was a tweet right before the game. Their starting center was out with a non-COVID illness. They tweeted like 15 minutes before the game, so I didn't even see that. And they got killed on the rebound, so that's why they lost that game. And then recently, my most recent day, I went 4-0. Probably one of the biggest days I've had this summer. I had one other 6-1 day. That was back on the last day of NBA Summer League. But my picks that day, my hammer pick was a juice bag parlay. I went Wings money line, Storm money line, Sun money line, and that all hit. And then they were all favorites, so I took the spreads. And I think, honestly, that's one thing I learned in sports betting is, like, I don't know what it is. Let me know in the comments, but I feel like every time you're betting, like, you have a favorite one game, you're like, dude, I have to take an underdog. Like, I can't be taking, like, 3 favorites because it's, like, in your head. Same thing, like, you're taking 3 underdogs. You're like, no way this is going to happen. Just go with your gut. Don't, like, that's like choosing, like, you're taking a test and you're choosing C, like, for every single answer. It's like, dude, there's no way this is right. It's the same exact thing. Like, it applies that if you don't get scared if you're having 3 favorites because it could happen. It's like the same thing as the exam I was saying. Like, you never know. Just go with your gut. Stay true to yourself and take those picks. But going back to Sunday, probably one of the best days I've had this year. I went 4-0 in the WNBA after following the league for the first time this year. I've been following consistently. Seattle Storm 82-72, won at home. Tina Charles had the game of her career, honestly, one of her best games in the Seattle Storm uniform. 27 points, 15 rebounds, had a double-double in the first half. Was lights out from the three-pointer. I think she had like 4 or 5 threes. Let me check here. She ended with 4 three-pointers. Those were all in the first half. And you know that's really good when Brianna Stewart's not even scoring. She ended up with 23 anyway. Sue Bird had a 3. Sue Bird doesn't really shoot that much. I think it's a misconception with some people. She's more known for her passing. She's retiring this year. So the Storm covered that game. The other game was the Wings versus the Fever. Fever literally the worst team in the league, not even in playoff contention anymore. The Wings honestly are a really good team. They are a really talented team. Arike is insane, the guard from Notre Dame. She's so good. I've watched her play many times now. They actually covered against the Sky in their previous game. They've been a covering machine recently. And then the Sun versus the Lynx. The Sun literally got their starting center back, and the Lynx starting center was not playing. So, like, it was such a lock. When the spread was minus 4.5, I'm like, there's no way this is right because, like, Sylvia Fowles is their starting center. She's one of the best centers in the league. And the Sun literally got Jonquel Jones back, probably going to be the MVP this year if it's not Brianna Stewart. So I was like, minus 4.5, that's a lock. So they won 86-79, so that was a cover. So that was that. Those were the 4 picks of that day, and that brings us to today. So we do tweet MLB picks every once in a while. As I said, I don't watch baseball at all, for those of you that know me already, but I do have some friends who give me baseball picks. I tweet them out. I tag their names so that way you know who they are, and that way you can like kind of ride with their picks. One of them had Braves -1.5 against the Phillies. That one did not hit. Another one has Dodgers -1.5. I think they are winning right now. Let me go ahead and check while I am talking. We also had a UFC pick. My friend Chase, he is really good with his dogs. We call him the Dogsmith. He normally comes on the show when he has a dog, and like he's been really, really money. Dodgers are up 1-0 at the end of the 4th, so that one's trending in the right direction, but we're not sure. But we're getting close to that 10-minute mark, so we're going to head and wrap things up here on this podcast. Thank you guys for listening in. We're going to try to do 10 minutes every single week, just recapping the week, talking things about sports. I'm going to try to get some guests on here. But this is Hammer the Over. Thank you so much for taking the time for listening in. If you made it all the way to the end, really appreciate your time. And as always, happy betting. Always hammer. Follow the Hammer picks. We've been pretty solid recently. Give us a follow. Show us some love and support. And we thank you for listening in, and have a great rest of your week.